If you're having a good time listening to Bradbury 100, please check out my other podcast, Science Fiction 101. And don't forget to visit my website at bradburymedia.co.uk. This is Bradbury 100, celebrating the life and works of American writer Ray Bradbury. Hello and welcome once again to Bradbury 100. Last time, you may recall, I was talking through the Ray Bradbury short stories published in the first half of 1943. That truly busy year for Ray, who had no fewer than 11 stories published in that year. Almost one a month. One of those stories was The Wind, which was published in Weird Tales magazine in March 1943. It's a terrific story in this original version, but the original version isn't the one you normally see. If you look the story up in Dark Carnival or The October Country or Bradbury Stories, what you'll find is the revised version, because between first publication in Weird Tales and the appearance of Ray's first book, Dark Carnival, he went about rewriting the story. And that more familiar, rewritten version is also a terrific story. And frankly, it's miles ahead of the original version. How can this be? We have one really strong story rewritten to become an even more strong story. Rewriting was a very important part of Ray Bradbury's process. He found early on, and through collaborating with Henry Hassey on a few stories, that writing wasn't all about coming up with an idea and putting it on paper. It's also about perfecting, honing choices of words, choices of character behaviour, and so on. And as I've said before on the podcast, he characterised his typical writing process as throw up in the morning, clean up at noon, which is his not too pleasant metaphor for first throw your ideas on the page without thinking about what you're doing, and later on return to what you wrote, but now engage the intellect in rewriting, polishing, perfecting your work. Often, as readers, we don't get to see this process happening. It just occurs in the privacy of Ray's office, and we just get the highly polished end result. But on more than a few occasions, Ray would release a story into the wild and then later think of ways to improve it. Some of his stories, published first in Weird Tales, were rewritten before they appeared in his first book, Dark Carnival. Some were rewritten when he revised Dark Carnival to produce The October Country, and he would often alter his stories whenever he adapted them for film, TV, theatre. The Wind is one of the earliest examples of a published Bradbury story undergoing a revision, so I think it's worth taking a closer look. The first version of The Wind, the Weird Tales version, is a fine story of a man with an obsession, a man who battles against the wind which is coming to get him. The story is told directly through his point of view. It's vivid, it's atmospheric, it's frightening. And yet, Ray was able to make it even more vivid, even more atmospheric, and even more frightening in his rewritten version. Right now, I'd like to read the original version of The Wind to you, using my best acting chops. And afterwards I'll come back to talk about some of the changes Ray made when he revised the story for Dark Carnival. So here is The Wind. The Wind by Ray Bradbury, from Weird Tales magazine, March 1943. This version of The Wind is in the public domain. John Colt was awake and listening. Moonlight sluiced into his room by the huge triple window fronting the upstairs of the house, fell across his sharp, questioning features. The wind moved far away in the night, and Colt's lips worked as he listened to it, moving stealthily and mournfully from the sea, approaching the house as surely as mighty horses' hooves. Colt's body shivered, hair stood erect upon his neck, and goose pimples clustered on his limbs. He knew why he felt this way. After 10 years, he could believe nothing else. He knew the wind was coming toward him, and he slipped from bed, thrust himself tremblingly into a robe, found carpet slippers, and ventured downstairs to await its arrival. He went to the phone thinking, "This is what I've waited for," calmly at first, curious, alert, sure of most factors. But I don't know how much I can stand. I keep losing my grip, gaining it and losing it again. His hand shook as he dialed the call through. "Hello, Herb. This is Colt." "John, how are you?" "Not so good. And like a fool, I dismissed my servants today. I'm alone." All the while he talked, Colt listened. The weird music of the wind was muted by distance. It waxed louder. "My writing routine for the last week's been shot to hell, Herb. Been trying to get some rest early tonight, but—" "What was that?" Colt winced. A tiny breeze, preamble to the wind now on its way, rattled the shutter. Colt thought, "Did I lock every door? Check everything?" "Sorry to hear that, John." Herb Thompson was talking. Colt gave ear, then, "Herb, I'd like to have you come for the night. Can you arrange—" "I'll have to ask the little woman, John. Hold on." A pause. Thompson was conferring with his wife. And far off, the wind rose steadily, rapidly. "Sorry, Colt. Alice says we've got company coming." "Oh," Colt swallowed. "Look, Herb, it's important. I've got theories about— well—" He stopped, groping for words. "Sounds like a case of nerves," said Thompson. "Why don't you come over here?" "That wouldn't help." Colt shook his head. "I don't know what would. Well, I'll call back in half an hour." He hung up. What could Herb do? Nothing. It wouldn't be fair to drag an innocent into this setup. And anyway, how explain to Herb about the wind? Police help? They'd send a soft pad squad. Colt deliberately opened the front door. A lopsided frame of moonlight stroked across the gleaming floor, picked out his wine-coloured robe and slippers. He stood, shivering, waiting. The great wind could be only a mile away now, soughing through a long, high, dim corridor of swaying elms, plunging down the arboreal path toward Colt's lonely country manor. Colt lit a cigarette, but his dark eyes fastened on the tree lane, eyes that had seen Rangoon, Stockholm, swept from Nairobi to the Amazon. It was a dark, meaningful wind. Others might have been amused by Colt's wild thoughts. Thompson, for instance, would laugh uproariously. But Colt was not amused. Alone out here, the 9 o'clock countryside steeped in a vast tide of shadowed, eerie silence, this fortress of a house his final refuge, the last roll of dice forced on him. Colt could only wait. The last stand, decks cleared for action. Colt dragged on his cigarette, flicked it away, thinking, if I scream, no one will hear me. No one. I'm far from town. Too damned far. He'd phone Herb in 20 minutes. What to say? Something like this. Herb, it began 10 years ago when I was investigating phenomena. I'd been around, seen hurricanes, typhoons and whirlwinds. I knew what wind could do. Well, I was in Tibet. I heard of a mountain called the Mountain of Winds, the space where the dark winds from all over the earth congregate at one time or another. It's a vast, evil mountain, grey and jutting, hard, bony rock without a hand or foothold. Blasphemy to touch it. I touched it, Herb. More, I scaled it. Up thousands of sickening, dizzy feet, climbing where only madmen climb to probe into what's better left undissected. I gained its crest, raw and wounded. Of all the high, wild places I've seen, this was the most terrifying. On its very peak cleft a scar of valley through which a tide of wind rushed shrieking. Not one wind, but millions, small and large, light and smoke-hued. Snow, rain, sleet and hail rang all about on the rocks. The blunt flesh of the mountain sustained it all, and I perceived this from a niche protected. Oh, how the clouds shot by there, high up like creamy shreds torn from some huge and belaboured wool skin. What a noise! What a view! What force and violence! How I snailed up or down or escaped, I don't know. Call it luck, fate, the will of an intervening God. But I cleaved like a lichen, hung, dropped, picked myself up, dropped again, scrambled and ran, afraid of what I'd seen. I got to Bombay. From time to time after that, there were suggestions of what would follow. Nothing definitely singling me out for action, but general disturbances that occurred with ungodly precision wherever I travelled. Then they ceased. I thought I had it licked. Until this week, 6 nights ago. I lay sleepless and listening. I heard a wind that night, Herb, chuckling and laughing about the house, just for an hour or so, not very long and not very loud. Then it went away. But I will never forget the sounds it made. The second night, the same thing happened. Only this time, Herb, thought Colt, the wind slammed shutters, spilled down my chimney, throwing soot, whisking out the fire in a flood of sparks. The first 2 nights weren't bad. I cocked my head, listened, amused to think I heard faint voices singing on the wind. But the 3rd and 4th nights, I changed my mind. It grew worse. The 5th night, the wind returned and stayed on and on, blowing and blowing until dawn. I remember what happened when I dared to open the door a moment. The wind came eagerly in. Colt stanced himself resolutely. He was not old. 30, moonlight mantelling his lean, intent face, his thick black hair and dark eyes. For the present he didn't recognize fear. He rubbed shoulders with curiosity, but tired resignation was its bed companion. Eventually it would have snared him no matter what he did. He'd had plenty of warning to flee. But, he shrugged, why bother? He'd make his stand here. The wind was almost tangible, rushing from tree to tree, faster, faster, and yet faster, rising, roaring, rising like a great translucent fist, ready to crush down upon the house, ready to sweep it all away. But that was not its purpose. It didn't want the house. It didn't want the house at all. It wanted Colt. The wind went up. It elevated, freeing itself like an invisible prehistoric bird from the elms. Great tidal waves of atmosphere punched trunks and worried branches aside. It screamed earthward down to the open door, straight for the door, straight for Colt. Instantly, Colt's arm flicked up, snatched the door, slammed it. Locks thunged sharp into niches. Bolts rapped home. A second late, the wind fell in a lethal avalanche, titanic and bone-shaking. The house heaved, groaned as the air flung hard shoulders against it. Colt staggered, the laugh from his lips crippled at birth. "Damn you! Damn you! I fooled you! I fooled you again!" He limped against the door, gasping. His brain was a steaming riot. What would have happened if the locks had failed? If he had not moved with a snap? Eyes distended, he pinioned the door unnecessarily, with spread-eagled body, laughter not his own, dropping from his mouth. "You thought I'd let you in tonight, didn't you?" he choked. "Thought I was through. But I had everything ready, waiting. You won't get me, by the gods. You can't. You won't." The fury flanked the house with resounding echoes. A great vacuum machine nuzzled at the gables. Shutters leapt open, clattered. Tiny breaking wings clipped off. Trees doubled up as if attacked, struck in the vitals. Colt abandoned the door, hurried to a window. The wind followed. It was all about the house, but its volcanic head looked after Colt, pressed a hard, shifting face against the panes. The window glass whined a crystal song of strain and stress. "You can't break it," jeered Colt. "You can't. It's new, unbreakable. I made sure of that yesterday." The intangible thing outside followed him from window to window and then from room to room, pressing and mourning. Colt stopped, struck by a strange thought. He gave it to the wind. "You're a big hound, run amok," he cried. "You're the damnedest, biggest prehistoric killer that ever hunted prey. A big, sniffling hound trying to smell me out, find me. You push your big cold nose up to the house, taking in air, and when you find me in the parlour, you drive your pressure there, and when I'm in the kitchen, you fling your power there. A big, invisible beast with the muscles of the mad winds. Damn you!" In reply, the night shrieked with all the agony of death. The wind seemed to razor the very gown of night, ripping it to shreds, shaking stars, trembling the shaded earth. It tore at the roof with quick, hard fingers, quested under the house to hiss through floor chinks. A whip of cold flicked Colt's legs. "Get back, curse you!" He blundered away from a side door. He ran from room to room, upstairs and down, switching on lights, and the wind watched him, moved with him. The house flamed with light, brilliantly garish amidst a whirlpooling night. Colt stopped long enough, coming down the hall stair, to light his pipe. He made a rigid ceremony of it, trying to steady his fingers. The flame fluttered. A cold draught snuffed it out. Colt tried again, succeeding. The pipe glowed. He blew smoke, and the draught whisked it away in a quick billow. The wind smote the house again and again. It fell, it leaned, it thrust. It whined through the screen door, but Colt made no move to satisfy it, so it jerked the screen off in a frenzy of strength, shattered it across the dark lawn. A strong house, thought Colt, and he was glad he had ordered reinforcements for certain portions of it. New wood, new steel, new locks. The harried trees were flung one way and another, riding whips cracked by a Jovian fist. Back in the living room, before the warming electric fire log, Colt picked up a book, one of the books he had written on hurricanes, typhoons, and other colossal forces. He thumbed through it, stopping at the dedication. "This book is written by one who has seen, but who has always escaped. It is dedicated to those who lost the game of elements." Always escaped? No, not always. Tonight. The printed page misted, flowed, garbled. Colt's pipe went out. When he tried to light it again, he could not. He set the book on his lap and began reading, and then a draught of wind, small, almost imperceptible, fingered the pages. It turned them idly, thoughtfully, one by one, over and over and over. Colt watched it work its will with the pages, stiffened and hypnotized. His fingers jerked. He seized the book and dashed it to the hearth, cursing. The wind mocked him, tenderly stroking his brow with a slim finger. Colt flung himself into the hall, tore down a huge drapery, jammed it against the door, under which the draught came hissing and laughing. "I'll throttle you! I'll stop your tongue!" And then, tired, "Go away, damn you! Go away. Let a mortal live." A grinding noise. Something crackled, like thick, dry bones. A pause. A rustling, thumping, terrific crash. The lights went out. The room plunged into a howling dark pit. The power poles lay slaughtered by the wind. The electric grate, glowing faintly, died too in the black room. The words Colt babbled were meaningless, like an hysterical child. Fumbling, Colt struck a match. Light played over a face aged 20 years. The lonely flame threw light over something that gleamed dully. The phone. Maybe. The phone wires had been connected to other poles, if the line was still intact. "Operator!" Colt waited. Response. "Yes, sir?" "Oh, thank God, thank God, thank God. Operator, give me Trinity 9929. Trinity 9929? Yes, and hurry, for Lord's—" A pause. The phone on the other end was ringing. It was ringing. It was ringing. Click. "Herb Thompson speaking." "Herb! Herb!" Insane with relief. "Yes? Who's this?" "Herb! Herb, this is Colt." "John? Your voice, I didn't recognize it. I haven't time. Listen, I want you to do something for me." "Anything. What's wrong? You sound—" Click. "Herb, there's a localized storm outside, a great wind. It wants me. It wants me. Alive. Are you listening?" A rapid rattle of the hook. "Herb?" A rattle. "Herb!" Pause. Shouting. "Herb!" Silence. The wind moved outside. It had won again. Won again. First the lights, now the phone. "Operator, I've been cut off. Operator! Oh, it's no use. No damned use. God curse you, damn you, kill you. Take this." He ripped the phone from its wiring, heaved it at a window. He realized his error too late to stop it. The phone struck only partially, splintering glass into a crystal web, breaking a small hole. The wind tongued in, taking advantage of the small egress. Colt dammed the hole with a plug of waded drapery. He stood, raging, frightened, bitter. Alone. Alone, eyes wide and every fibre in him aquiver. "You want me alive, don't you? Alive! You don't dare knock the house down in one fell blow. No, that would kill me, and you want me alive so you can rip me apart finger by finger and muscle by muscle. Or do you want what's inside me? My mind, my brain, my mind." He faltered to a stop, shocked by truth. He put a hand to his brow. "My mind. That's it. You want it, don't you? You don't care for the husk that cradles the mind, but you want the intellect. You covet my thought, my life power, my ego, the psychic force, the power of thought and existence. You want all those because that is what you are, aren't you?" He drew in a long, aching breath. His eyes coursed tears and his cheeks were wet. And he cursed the wind. "That's what you are. A big cloud of vapours, atoms. winds from every corner of the earth, the same wind that ripped the Celebes 10 years ago, the same Pampero that killed in Argentina, the typhoon that fed well in Hawaii, and the hurricane that devastated the coast of Africa last year. You're all of them, part of each. Part of those tempests I escaped. Only something happened to give you a start in the direction of alien life. Or maybe the winds have always been this way, more than hot and cold currents. You want power, like mine. You want intellect. I could do you more good or harm than others, for I know your feeding ground. I know where you are born and where you expire. You don't want death like other winds. You want life, to get me out of the way, because I know. I can tell the world of your cruelty, tell them how to parry and defeat you, as I have done in books, but you don't want my preaching any more. You can use me for your own purposes, incorporate me into your huge, cold carcass, give you knowledge, purpose, direction. You want me on your side. Colt laughed again, lungs tired and broken from laughing and shouting against the dinning. The house shook like a slipper in a puppy's mouth. You'll have to tear the house down bit by bit, and I'll duel you tooth and nail all the way, like I fought you in Ceylon, when I started a forest fire, the one thing that survives and feeds on wind, combating it. I licked you then, and I'll do it again. The house shook once more, and the crumbling started. The front wall bulged in, glass splintered, but did not break. Colt, face swollen from emotion, turned, scrambling for the kitchen. He dared look once as the kitchen door sealed behind, saw the parlour wall buckle, spew in as if rammed by an artillery shell. The wind stabbed through, howling in triumph. The kitchen door barely shut before the wind's shoulder was against it. The frail lock could not hold. Colt fought against straining hinges. Giving up, he jerked the cellar door agape, leaped down, bolted it. Bomber fragments of kitchen doors shrapnelled everywhere. Gas mains tore loose, spurted gas that blazed into fire. The upper floor of the house tore away like the simultaneous ripping of 10 million yards of muslin. Colt gritted his teeth, held to the door. Blood ran from his nostrils. He fought idiocy, fought the wind with his mind. You can't get me. You can't. I'd hide until you rip the floor up, board by board. Then I'll burrow in the ground like an animal and escape, like I did in Alexandria years ago, like I did in Nairobi. I'll burrow. The wind paid no heed. There were voices in it. Voices of the gale, Bora and Bayamo. Wretched callings, pleadings of the siroccos and tempests. They pleaded with Colt, commanding, telling, urging, ordering him to give himself up. These were the tongues of 10,000 killed in a typhoon, 7,000 slaughtered by a hurricane, 3,000 engulfed by a cyclone, twisted and tortured and flung from continent to continent on the backs and in the bellies of monsoons and whirlwinds, wandering in rains and showers, in snows and hails, racked by thunder, pelted by water, fettered and bodiless, moulded from 1 million disenthroned spirits into one voice. And that voice, one of darkness and power, now demanded but yet another sacrifice. In respite the wind slowed. It quelled over the conquered rubble of wood, plaster and sharded glass. It roved through the crippled ruin, biding time. It languished outside the cellar, singing a blank-versed melody in a score of keys. And the singing was only broken by the sobbing from the cellar. There was a great silence after the maelstrom, a silence punctuated by weeping and the anxious hiss of the wind. Colt would not come out. The cellar floor was dirt. He lay on it, looking up, face streaked with dirt, sweaty, lined and haggard. "Come and get me," he husked. Scrabbling at the soil, raking a shallow trench for his body, he attempted to burrow to crouch in. His fingernails tore and bled. He ached. He longed to rest. Finally, he could stand it no longer. A coil of rope lay in a corner. He clutched it, threw a snake of it up over one quivering rafter. The kitchen flooring gave, creaking bit by bit. In 5 minutes, as the rope came ravelling down, Colt tied a quick noose in it, hard and sure, just far enough off the floor to... Next, a keg of nails rolled and rocked into place. Colt stepped up. This was escape. He reached for the noose. The wind flicked the noose away from his fingers. A small hand of wind somehow had crept into the cellar from above, and now it flung the rope wildly in circles. "Give it to me! The rope! You fool, the rope!" Colt tried to catch the madly dancing hemp line, but the wind threw it out of reach, zigzagging it from side to side and back and forth. A lurch from Colt. The rope flew away, came back to wrap his face, then out again. Desperation. Colt snatched, cursed, snatched again. Time grew short. So little time to escape. A snatch, a miss, and he caught the rope. The wind died. Died as if only playing a game. It waited. Colt wondered why. But taking advantage of the cessation, he thrust his head into the noose. "You can't have me alive! You can't have my life force!" he cried. "I'm getting away! I'm getting away! Now!" Colt leapt, kicking the nail keg with frantic feet. The rope sang, wiring his throat in strangulation. "I have won," his misting brain exulted. "I have won." But immediately, the rafters upon which the rope depended sagged inward, shrieking, slowly, slowly, certainly. With cracking thunder, the rafters, pulled by Colt's weight, gave way, opening an entrance for the wind. The rafters collapsed. The floor caved and flew apart. Colt fell, sprawled, choking in the dirt. "All right, God damn you!" He stiffened up, raging. "Here I am! Take me!" The wind howled. "The lines are down, sir. Are you sure, operator? I was cut off in the middle of my call." Herb Thompson laid the phone back in its cradle and leaned against the writing desk, shaking his head. "I can't figure it out. No storm. A little wind, maybe, but..." He took his coat off an armchair and shrugged into it. "Think I'll drive out Colt's way, have a look-see. He sounded strange, but that's his way. Maybe on his way here now, with another of his cracked theories, liable to pop up any time." Herb Thompson was undecided. He stood, wavering, considering, hat in hand. Faintly, a rapping came on the front door. "Hey?" Herb started, listening. The knock was repeated. Who's knocking at this time of... Thompson hurried across his den, out into the hall, where he stopped again, alert. Faintly, he heard laughter. "Of course," Herb grinned hugely. "I'd know his laughter anywhere. It's Colt. He came when he was cut off. Couldn't wait till morning to tell me of his confounded tall tales." Thompson chuckled as he marched to the front door. "Glad he's here. Probably brought some friends with him. Sounds like a lot of other people laughing." Thompson opened the front door. "Come on in, Colt." The porch was vacant. Thompson showed no surprise. His face grew amusedly sly. He laughed. "Colt? Now, none of your tricks. Come on." He switched on the porch light and peered out and around. "Where are you, Colt?" No answer. Thompson waited a moment, suddenly chilled to the marrow. He stepped out on the porch and looked uneasily about, very carefully. A sudden wind caught, whipped his coat, dishevelled his hair. He thought he heard laughter again. The wind died down, sad, mourning, passing away, away, going back far out to the sea, to the Celebes, to Nairobi, to Sumatra and Cape Horn, fading, 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 laughing. Thompson shrugged. He went in and closed the door, shivering. "That's funny," he said. That was The Wind, in its original version from Weird Tales magazine, March 1943. Ray was 22 years old when that story was published. And although I wouldn't claim to be the world's greatest actor, I think you can see how atmospheric and haunting the story is, even from my reading of it. In the show notes, I'll give you a link to an online copy of that issue of Weird Tales, so you can take a look for yourself. So, what did Ray change when he rewrote the story for Dark Carnival? Well, the main thing is that he switched the point of view. In the revised version, we now no longer see these supernatural events directly through the eyes of the man who is hunted down by the wind. Instead, we see, or rather we hear, everything over the phone. We stay entirely with the friend who receives the phone call from this disturbed figure on the other end of the line. Let me ask you a question. What would you do if you received a call from a friend saying they are being attacked by the wind? Would you think it was true? Or would you think he'd lost his mind? Ray then further distances us from the haunted fellow by making those phone calls into interruptions, which repeatedly interfere with a social gathering, a card game. What are you going to do? Take part in your comfortable little soiree? Or are you going to be antisocial and talk to your obsessive, crazy friend? You see, the shifting of point of view gives so many opportunities for this story to take on an added dimension, an added layer, and added conflict. The actual events of the story aren't much different in the rewrite. It is mainly this shifting of point of view which gives us the additional layer and the additional vividness of the story. I'll remind you that you can find the revised version of The Wind in Dark Carnival, in the October Country, and in Bradbury Stories. And to be honest, I recommend you go and read it now. And let me know, which version do you prefer? Now, you can tell that I very much like the rewrite, and I consider it to be one of Ray's finest stories. But I also like the original. Well, I hope all this talk of a murderous wind doesn't give you nightmares. In the next Bradbury 100, I will return to the year 1943, and we'll look at the remaining Bradbury stories from that bumper year. See you then. Bradbury 100 is presented and produced by Phil Nichols, and theme music is by Purple Planet at purpleplanet.com. You can find the show notes and much more on Bradbury at bradburymedia.co.uk. And please check out my other podcast, Science Fiction 101, where we discuss the past, present and future of science fiction. You'll find it wherever good pods are given away.